Hi, Larry Kaye here with ShadowAnyone.com with a brief and very quick preview of podcast number 3 over at ShadowAnyone.com/podcast. And you can, this is for episode number 3. And I'm very hesitant to even try to condense it down, but I just give you a little preview. And today, with this episode, we're talking about a layered approach to protecting your privacy and your safety and your security. And this actually comes out of an email that I got, and I laid out an approach, a layered defense approach that I like to propose. And the first layer of that is that the bad guys don't know your name. So this originally came as an email from someone who was doing process serving, and he was concerned about, having disgruntled ex-spouses and things who he's serving process on. Should he use his real name or not? And, my approach to it is, you have a layered approach between the bad guys and you so that they can't get to you, get to your house, get to your home. And the first layer of that approach is they do not know your name. And one thing that you can consider doing, and I explain this in a little more detail in the actual podcast, is using your middle name for professional things and your first name that you normally go by with family and friends. And that way, if someone does call up or knock on the door asking for you by your middle name, you know this is something that's happening in the professional world. However, so the first layer of defense is that they don't know your name, but if they do know your name, layer number 2, they can't trace your name back to where you live. And this is a very tricky and difficult step. But, you want to probably, at the bare minimum, you don't want to be signing up for things, discount clubs or things like that with your real name and your real address. But I would highly recommend you take it a step further and get a post office box or even a private mailbox. And I prefer using a private mailbox so that everything you fill out, everything you do routes through there, so that if they do know your name and they trace it back to an address for you, it actually traces back to someplace you do not live, preferably that private mailbox or post office box. But if they do trace it back to your home somehow, and there's a million ways they can, if you're listening to this, you're very likely a private investigator. You know about skip tracing. But if they do trace it back to your home, make sure your house is physically secure. And specifically secure enough to deter somebody from, trying to get in. If they drive by and they see a well-kept yard, no bushes around the windows, you got a solid front door, your windows look good, they say, you know what, this is just it's not going to work, it's not worth it, and they'll drive by. But if they decide your house is not a hard enough target to deter them, layer number 4 is make sure you know they're coming, and this is about an alarm system. It does not have to be expensive or fancy, and in the podcast I talk about a real-world case study about an alarm system that actually deterred an FBI covert surveillance team from entering an apartment. But make sure that's level number 4. Make sure you know they're coming with an alarm. And number 5 on the layered approach is that if they do somehow get past the alarm, that you have video of them so that you can use it in court later on and make sure that at least they pay for the crimes they've committed along the way. This is just the quickest little overview, and not including any of the interesting details or tidbits or actually even some warnings that I have for you that you can get over at ShadowAnyone.com/podcast, episode number 3. I cover all of this in great detail. In the meantime, remember, do the right thing, even if it's the hard thing.